Filming today is scarier than usual for me because I have twice as many subscribers as I did the last time I posted anything. So if you're here from my tweet, then hi, nice to see you. So today's video is brought to you by the fact that dating makes me so scared. Every time someone asks me out, I start to scream and cry. There is nothing worse than a date, especially a first date. Those are like the stuff of nightmares. So as I always do when something is bothering me, I decided to figure out why and then also how to fix it. And everything that I've figured out thus far is my gift to you all for the very low price of please subscribe to my channel and also like this video. Alrighty, let's get started with number one, which is that dating literally feels like a test of whether you are good enough as a person for someone to be romantically interested in. It's like an audition or a job interview where you obviously want to impress them. You want them to like you. And it is so scary to think about the fact that this person could decide that they hate you and think you're gross. Is this a horrifying thought to anyone else? Going on a date and they don't like you at all, and then you spend the rest of your life wondering what you did wrong and why you are so unlikable. Like, if you already have fragile self-esteem, I can imagine maybe thinking that maybe dating is not quite worth it. So what's the solution to this? Honestly, the main one that I have found is honestly just realizing that they are probably equally as nervous about the whole thing as you. Like, they have these exact same fears and this exact same desire to impress you. It is so unlikely that they are sitting there with like a clipboard and a pen assessing your acceptability as a potential partner because they're too busy worrying that this is what you're doing to them. I honestly just think it's helpful to realize that worrying about whether you're impressing someone is not a you thing at all. It's a most people thing. And if everyone else has had the same kind of worries and overcome it and is chilling and fine, then you probably can too. The next little solution to this issue is, do you remember the fragile self-esteem that I mentioned before? Make it less fragile. Drink some milk or something. Become likable to yourself, because for one thing, if you can get to a place where you think that you're likable, you probably are more likable and other people are going to find you more likable. And for two things, it means you feel more confident going into the date. And confidence is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you feel good going into something, it's going to be better, because this like lack of confidence comes across to people. Like, they can pick up on it. And for three things, it means that if they do end up not being into you, it won't be quite as devastating, because like, you know you're cool, you know you're likable. One person's opinion isn't going to change that. You know that there will be other people who like you and that that's just life. And then my last little bit of advice here is honestly to worry a bit less about how you're coming across to them and maybe focus a bit more on how they're coming across to you. Like, do you actually like this person? Because if you're spending the whole day worrying about like yourself and how you're being perceived, when are you going to be taking the time to actually notice whether this is someone that you even want to take things further with? Okay, so that point leads quite nicely into the second thing that I find extremely stressful about dating, and that is that I might have to reject someone. Like, I do not know what is worse, being rejected or doing the rejecting. Like, honestly, it's just so horrible, you know? And I genuinely have no idea how you're meant to do it without feeling evil. Like, what can you possibly say that isn't going to hurt their feelings? I truly do not think that there's any way to make it nice enough that it's not going to still feel like rejection. And honestly, from this perspective, I kind of understand why people ghost. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it's a good thing to do, but like, I get the appeal of not wanting to have to use your words and be direct. Anyway, I've just now decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out how to reject someone nicely. And then I'm going to make a video on how to reject someone nicely, because right now I'm kind of unsure. But what I can offer my thoughts on currently is like the worrying before the date about the fact that you might have to reject them. The first way I would say to deal with this worrying is honestly to not go. If you already kind of have like a vibe that it's not gonna go anywhere. Like, if you've been chatting to this person online or you know them in person before you decide to go out, and you kind of have this feeling that, okay, I don't think that I am romantically interested in you, I would recommend not saying yes just to like check things out and seeing if you change your mind. I've definitely fallen into this trap of being like, okay, I feel like I don't think I'm gonna be into you, but maybe if we go on a date, like I might end up being like, oh, okay, actually this was fun and I do like you. I'm always wrong. Like, I knew before the date, it just got confirmed to me. And that makes it even worse, because now you have to reject them after going out with them. And then they might think like, she was into me before going out with me, and now that she's gone out with me, she's not. So I must have done something wrong on the date. If you're someone who is more of a slow burn and you sort of take a while to know whether or not you're into someone, then this tip might not be for you. This is more for people like me who know so fast. Literally within the space of like, you send me 2 messages, I will know whether I'm gonna like you or not. And it's the same if we meet in person. Within 4 seconds, I can tell. I can tell if there's a vibe, and it's never built. Like I've never had the slow burn thing. It just doesn't happen for me, and so I need to stop trying to see if it's gonna happen, because it doesn't. So if you're like me and you know from the beginning, I would honestly just like, when they ask you out, go with a nice thanks, but no thanks. But also here, don't self-sabotage. If you are the kind of person who's going to be like, I'm feeling like nervous and uncomfy and scared, that means that I don't like them, so I just shouldn't go. Like, no, don't use it as an excuse. I'm not sure what I'm getting at here, but you know yourself better than I do, obviously. Like, if you're the kind of person who you know is just looking for an excuse because you're so worried about other things, don't listen to this advice. But if it's a situation where you genuinely know that you're not into it, don't go. The next bit of advice I have for if you're really worried about having to reject someone is to have a conversation before agreeing to go on the date about kind of what your expectations are, what you're looking for, making it very clear that a date is not any kind of commitment to anything else beyond the date. Just so they're a little bit prepared and not coming into it expecting you to be wanting a marriage proposal after the first date. Note to my editor, who is me. Can we insert a little clip of Davide from Love Island doing his whole, do you expect me to marry you? So like, I feel like this conversation is even more important if the person that you're going to see is like super intense and the kind of person that does take things seriously from the get-go. And honestly, here again, like if you get the feeling that you and this person aren't looking for the same thing, or if you get the feeling that they are going to be super weird about it if you say to them that they're not kind of what you're looking for, then I would say just don't go. Okay, the next biggest fear I have with dating is honestly kind of silly, and it's just that I might end up having the most awkward experience of my entire life. No chemistry, nothing to talk about, just long stretches of pained, uncomfortable silence. Okay, unfortunately, I do not believe that you can create chemistry or force chemistry. I think some people just don't have it with each other, and that's fine. But you can definitely still have a conversation with most people, and a conversation that isn't like the worst. The easiest way to do this is honestly just to have questions prepared, because people love to talk about themselves, honestly. I'm not saying just rapid fire ask someone questions. Although actually I think if someone did this to me I would probably laugh. I think I would find it funny. But just, you know, have a few general chit chat things hidden in your pocket for if you need, for like if the conversation goes dead. Also, I'm a huge fan of the 36 questions that lead to love, which is just like a list of 36 questions that apparently if you like ask them all, you'll fall in love with someone. Also, just a pre-warning to you all that I am about to start a podcast where I just basically go on first dates with people and I ask them these 36 questions and see if they fall in love with me. So keep an eye and an ear out for that. Also, I need guests, so if you want to fall in love with me, let me know. I'll get you your own one of these to swing around with me. Okay, back to the awkwardness bit. My next tip here is to go on a date that is doing something, so you don't have to rely entirely on the conversation being good. So here, like, you could go to mini golf, or you could go bowling, or go to a museum or an art gallery. It's just something that isn't entirely you sitting there talking. Another bonus, everything is so loud. Another bonus of this is that it means even if the date sucks and doesn't go anywhere, at least you got to go do a fun little activity. So this situation is, I think, a win-win. Also have an escape plan ready for if the date really is going awful and you do just like want to skedaddle. Please, I am begging you, do not get your friend to call you and say that your house is on fire, because for one thing, I am pretty sure that everyone has heard of this and they will know you're a liar. And for another thing, they could secretly be a firefighter and want to come over and help. And that's going to get awkward real fast. And then you're going to have to set your house on fire so you don't look like a liar. So yeah, come up with something else. Beforehand, even say to them, hey, I have somewhere that I have to be at this specific time. So that way when it gets close to that time, you can just go, well, gotta go. Alright, and the last thing that I think is scary about dating, and I'm not actually sure like what to call this fear, but I guess just something about putting all this pressure on dating to be this kind of like perfect experience, and for them to be this perfect person, and for everything to be wonderful and lovely and incredible, because you know, maybe that happens, but most of the time that doesn't happen. Then you're disappointed and you feel like a failure. I guess the issue is just going into a date with so many expectations, because it means that instead of just being there and having the experience, you're comparing it to what you think it should be. So even if the date ends up being like good and nice and you have a good time, if you're going, well, okay, but it should have been this other thing, like it's not meeting the standards that I'd imagined in my head. The main fix that I have for this issue is honestly just a mindset shift from viewing dating as goal oriented towards viewing dating as experience oriented. Don't go into the date focused on a specific outcome that you're hoping for. Go into it just as like a nice, fun little thing that you're doing. I think when you look at it this way, it's so much easier to find something good, even in dates that kind of weren't great. Like maybe you got to drink a yummy drink, and that's fun. Maybe you had a nice conversation, and that's good. Maybe you got to do a fun activity. Or maybe it's just made you feel less nervous about dating in the future because you realize that actually it's not that scary. And also, I mean, maybe you could meet the love of your life. Who knows? The point is that it's fine, whatever outcome you end up getting. As Miley Cyrus once said, it's all about the climb. Alright, so that is all from me today. I just now need to figure out how to take my own advice. We'll work on this. If you have any other little thoughts or tips or ideas or things that stress you out about dating, let me know in the comments. Let's have a chat about it. Also, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel, or else I'll make you go on the most boring, uncomfortable, stressful date ever with me. Okay, love you, bye.